Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio. This is where we get to explore the depths of conscious living and what it truly means to live an expanded life. Join us to be inspired, encouraged, maybe even transformed, and to tap into the sense, your sense of joy and possibility. Welcome. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, which is home to the quantum connection process. You can go to the Baca Institute to take the quantum connection quiz, which brings you into the space of discovering your unique connection with the universe. That's a big statement, I realize. We each have our own unique way of interacting with Source. And we are of Source. But that direct connection, that remembrance of that direct connection, and the awareness, your awareness of your own unique style, helps to deepen that connection. That's what this is all about, deepening your connection and your remembrance with all that is. And it's the secret to creating what you truly want in your life, because who you are is exactly who is needed. So my guest today, well, actually, before I introduce her, I'm going to say something about this episode. You know, as a meditation teacher, I am well grounded in the experiences of inner silence. It's what I teach, it's what I know about, and I know that silence brings untold gifts. At the same time, silence can feel threatening when you aren't accustomed to it. And it's as if the unknown space that you encounter must be filled. So what do? You fill it with all sorts of things. But what if you knew more about what was possible in that space of the silence? Well, my guest today will share her perspectives on how silence can not only enhance your creativity, but expand your business success too. Really, your success in life. So my guest today, with that introduction to the all of what we're going to be exploring today, is Arliss Dudley-Cash, who brings a wealth of experience. I'm so excited about this, across industries like operations management and forensic investigation. Doesn't exactly sound like, what has that got to do with silence? But that's all complemented by her background in neuroscience. Her journey overcoming adversity, including a terminal diagnosis, fuels her passion for inspiring others. Arliss is dedicated to empowering clients to embrace authentic entrepreneurship, fostering joy and freedom in their endeavors. Her ultimate goal? It's to see individuals become the architects of their own success and fulfillment, embodying self-love and realizing their dreams. And that is so beautiful. I like even saying it, Arliss. Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be here with you today.
So let's start to talk about silence. Talking about silence, it sounds like a contradiction, but people so often feel like they must fill silence, that in order to feel okay, the empty space or anything that feels like empty space must be filled. And they fill it with their environment and with distractions.
Yeah. I think that this is something that we've really normalized in society. In fact, we see it depicted in our movies and TV shows, and even in the books that are being published now where they talk about people listening to the radio or an audiobook or having something going on in the background as they're living their daily life.
Mhm.
And so people have really normalized this process of being immersed in sound or activity, which was not always the case for most of human evolution.
Mm.
Um, and if we think of a lot of the most creative minds, a lot of them were the most creative when they were in silence, and actually have written about that in their memoirs or in their journals or things like that.
Mhm.
And it makes me wonder, what are we losing out on as a society
Mhm.
by not allowing our brain the space and the calm
Mhm.
to just be?
Yeah, exactly. That's such a wonderful way to frame all of this because, and it's I don't think it's even just our brain. I mean, it's our whole
Yeah.
nervous system. It's the cells in our body that how can we benefit by allowing ourselves to be? Why do you, how did we come here? How did we get to this place where we can't walk down the street without listening to a podcast? Please
Well,
do
I think
listen
it
though.
was,
If you're listening and you're walking, keep doing it.
yeah. Well, I think it came from a very innocent and excited and joyful place, actually. I think it came from the invention of the radio and how exciting that was to be able to have one and play one. And then there was TV. And then, as technology expanded, there were more options to gain information. And I do think that there's this sense in all of us that there's just so much to learn out there all the time, that if we're not constantly consuming, that we might fall behind.
Yeah.
And there's that fun part of it too. I mean, I love listening to my favorite books on podcasts or on audiobooks, and I get so excited and I can feel the tension, and it's, all of that sort of thing. And so there's that entertainment part too. And I think that we've gone to an extreme, just like bamboo, right? So we didn't have anything before, other than speaking to each other, playing music or the sounds of nature. And then all of a sudden we have everything at our fingertips. And so we're over here where as a society, we are in that place. And I think that eventually we're going to swing back and find a middle. And it's
Mhm.
time for that swing back to happen.
Yeah. In my work, what I notice is that the more people focus outside, externally, yeah, there is a lot to consume and a lot to learn and a lot to do. Yet, if it's not fueled by something that comes from within them, eventually they end up feeling either empty or lost or so stressed in trying to create what it is they want to create because it's not coming from that internally inspired place.
I completely agree with that. I think that what happens is that there's a lack of self-awareness that happens.
Mm.
And part of that lack of self-awareness is we are not really paying attention to how we speak to ourselves. And I literally said ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
it's ourselves within ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the more that we are negatively entertaining thoughts, we have over 60,000 thoughts in a day. Over 80% of them are negative. Over 95% of them are the same thoughts that we had the day before. And if we're not catching the negative thoughts that we have, we create an internal landscape from a lack of self-awareness that is very negative and can be extremely stressful or overwhelming or create an environment where we feel stuck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So so how do you, I know we're kind of maybe leaping into this, but how do you teach people about how to make some kind of shift with that?
I always think that it's best to start very small. So much of us want to start with, oh, I'm just going to cut out all podcasts or cut out all audiobooks or TV or screens for
Stop my
forever.
negative thoughts.
Right. And then that's just going to stop my negative thoughts because I'm not going to have these influences. And then we get like 2 days in and we're like, I can't do without this awesome podcast by Laurie Seymour. I have to go back. So So I think we start small. I think we start with maybe a period of a couple of minutes of silence a day. There has been research that shows that even a couple of minutes of silence a day, like 2 minutes of silence a day, can have really positive impacts on stress level, on blood pressure,
Mhm.
on the autonomic functions in our body, being able to process easier. So just start with like 2 minutes and sit in the silence and notice what comes up. And if it's negative, don't be judgy towards it because
Mhm.
that's just more negativity,
Right.
but just be aware of it. And just being aware of it allows for us to shift into something different if we want to.
Yeah. If we
But if
want to.
we, yeah. And I think starting small allows us to be more successful.
Totally. I mean, people come to me and say, "Well, how do I meditate?" And or I can't meditate, and it's often because they've tried to do something at such a bigger a bigger landscape than they can handle yet.
Yeah.
So you're
I
talking about that external silence, that 2 minutes of external silence. How do they? Hmm, how do you help people get to that 2 minutes of internal silence?
This is a really beautiful question. I think it does start with the 2 minutes of external silence first,
Hmm.
because we have to calm our environment in order to figure out if we're calm inside or not. So much our mirror neurons are out there looking at the world around us and mirroring that response. So if we can calm our external environment, then we can see if internal silence is possible or not,
Uh-huh.
and with the tools that we have. And I think a really great way to start is to focus on breath. Now, that's not always accessible to everyone.
Hmm.
I have a backup if that's not accessible to somebody, but focusing on the feeling of breathing, breath going into the body. What does it feel like when it passes through the nose or mouth and into the throat and down into our chest, and our body moves and we feel it and then it goes back out? Turning our attention to that can really allow for the internal chatter to quiet down.
Hmm. Hmm. And then what? So because that's a common question I get of, well, so what? The internal chatter starts to calm down, but maybe it's how do I stay with that, or how do I expand on that, or what should I expect?
And I think it's a really great place to let go of all expectation.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, you know, I don't think many humans on this planet spend a whole bunch of time really getting to know themselves.
Mhm.
There are some of us that spend probably more time than we need getting to know ourselves. But the truth is that this body that we have on this planet, and this soul or spirit or whatever you want to call that consciousness that lives within, um, is the person that we are going to talk to the most. It's the only person on this planet that we are going to experience our entire life with,
Wow.
every single moment. This is our most trusted and our best friend. We are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This consciousness that we have is our most trusted and best friend. Can we really expect to have an amazing relationship where we feel supported and loved and cared for and respected if we don't work on that relationship? And, you know, if you go to an intimacy counselor that talks about romantic relationships, they're going to say, can you sit in a room and be quiet with each other and be comfortable? And that's a lot what the standard is for a lot of people of true intimacy. I'm using air quotes because,
Mm-hmm. Right.
everybody has their own definition. But I do think that getting silent within ourselves is a way to experience true intimacy with self, and to deepen that sense of trust and to deepen that sense of awareness of who we really are.
I love that. I can't tell you how much I love that, and acknowledge that. And I'm going to take it another step, which is about creativity and innovation and um, certainly for business owners, but for everybody, anyone who's looking to perhaps be more creative.
Yeah. Creativity comes when we are willing to imagine things outside of what is reality right now. Creativity comes when we let go of the way that things should be or could be, and we see beyond that. It really is a letting go of expectation. The more that we try to confine ourselves and say it's going to be this,
Mm-hmm.
I think any creative out there, whether you're a statistician or an artist,
Mm-hmm.
has found that it's harder to be creative. When we let ourselves be in silence and we let our internal being calm and get as close to silence as we can, it really strips away those expectations and allows for anything to pop up and allows it to be okay. Whether it's realistically possible or not, doesn't matter at that point.
Right. We never know what we might be able to solve or what problem we might be able to solve or what solutions might enter in that haven't even been tried before.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So tell us a little about you because you have a pretty unique background. And and it's certainly not a linear progressive, oh, I did this and that took me to that. And how how are you here now with all of what you bring? How does this get how did this get created? Meaning I guess you.
Yeah, so I love this question. Um, so in high school, I did an iSearch project where I decided to focus on forensic science questions. And the reason I did was because I was reading my first non-school assigned book, which I mean, I just wasn't, I was so much of a jock in junior high and high school that reading non-assigned books wasn't the top of my list. But at that moment, I was reading a true crime novel and I was fascinated by it.
Uh-huh.
So I decided through that project that that's what I wanted to do. And so in college, I wrote my own major at the University of Santa Cruz or University of California, Santa Cruz in forensic science. And after I graduated, I became a deputy coroner. And I was a deputy coroner for a year and a half where I did death investigation and I was an autopsy tech. And I loved the science. I still love the science
Mm-hmm.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that my bright, sunshiny, pink scrubs and pigtails personality was not a great fit for death investigation. And I remember one day I used to go to my dad's office after work every day, and I would sit there and talk to him about my day. And I just sat down and I was like, there's just no way I can really make this fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's just always an edge of sadness to everything I do. And that's when I realized I needed to do something else. And so I applied to graduate school. I assumed that I would study anatomy and physiology because that's what I had
Right.
really studied as a deputy coroner for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was accepted into the blanket program of biosciences at University of Iowa. And in that program, you get to intern in 4 different labs before you commit to your major.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely fell in love with neuroscience, which of course, I'm sure all of you can tell, I'm a big nerdy nerd, and I still love neuroscience to this day. And in the process, I did research on chronic and acute pain. And 3.5 years in, I had an unexpected change in my health. I had a tonsillectomy and I had a major complication, and I just wasn't recovering. And I got very, very sick at the time. And I ended up being diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a genetic condition. And Ehlers-Danlos syndrome in and of itself is not a death sentence, but my health had declined so far that the doctor said, I'm going to be surprised if you live more than a year.
Whoa.
And that I needed to leave graduate school and I needed to leave Iowa. I was in Iowa at the time, and go and live with family. And so that's what I did is I relocated to Hawaii where my parents had retired.
Mm-hmm.
And for 6 months, I bought into that idea that I wasn't going to live for more than a year. And after about 6 months, I decided there must be more. There must be something different. There must be some different choice that I could at least try. I mean, there's nothing that's going to be wrong with trying
Exactly.
at this point. And I ended up seeing a specialist in EDS, and I got a lot of help. I had a number of medical procedures and changed every aspect of my life, and I got healthy. And that was one of the darkest times of my life. And it was one of the biggest gifts of my life because it made me uh, able to overcome my fear of failure. Because,
Ah,
and I don't want to say, and I don't want to say that I don't ever have fear of failure, because I do, but I don't allow it to make my choices for me anymore.
okay.
Because of course I was afraid of failing at healing and being healthy again.
And what's the outcome of that? You die.
Yeah, but it was absolutely worth trying for. And
Yes.
so, since then I've owned a jewelry company and I've sold a jewelry company, and then I worked in corporate, and then I started my own business consulting and I got my MBA. And that's what I do now is business consulting, and I also teach at the university in the business and marketing department.
Mm.
And I'm getting my PhD or my doctorate in religious sciences right now, and I just registered for my first class in ministerial school. And so who knows what life has? And this is what I tell people all the time is you might be doing what you're doing for the rest of your life. And this might be the thing that you do for the rest of your life, or this might just be for now. And either way is okay.
Mhm.
And accepting that we evolve and change in our human experience on this planet. And one of the biggest ways that we can really allow ourselves to express what we really want to be doing, and the way that we want
Yeah.
to be creative, is by seeking the silence. And when I was really sick, I spent a lot of time in silence. And I had to get really real with myself, really real with who I am on this planet, and get to a point where I could love and accept that who I am.
Wow. I just want to just take a moment of silence in honoring and acknowledging your journey. When I really feel the substance and the beauty of your journey and how it's brought you. Would never have thought you were going to say, yeah, now I'm going to do a doctorate program in what you say, religious ministry,
Religious sciences.
religious sciences. No, I would never have thought that. And yet I can feel the connective tissue, the pieces that take you from one place to the other. And I want to underline that because that is such an important statement to everyone who is listening, that we need to pay attention because we're given different markers and different arrows that point. But if we don't pay attention and if we don't give that silence the little bit of space to see where it might be pointing to, you'll never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the things that's very common is people decide that they don't want to do something anymore, or maybe they're not very successful at it for whatever reason,
Hmm.
and they feel like they've just failed in life and that they will never succeed again. And as a person that has restarted many times and will probably restart many times, I mean, I'm 40, I just turned 40. I'm sure I will have at least 4 more careers in this, the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Um, there's always a second chance as long as we are here and are willing to take the steps to do it. There's always a second chance or a third chance or a fifth chance, or however many chances is needed to find that thing that we feel really passionate about. So if you're out there and listening to this and you're not super passionate about what you're doing, that's okay. Keep doing it so you can pay your bills and all that sort of thing, be responsible. But start sitting with yourself and finding out what that next step might be. And it doesn't have to be a vocation change. It could be a hobby too.
Yeah, it could be a location change. It could be so many different things that support that being passionate about your own life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people, a lot of let's say business owners, entrepreneurs that work with meditation or work with silence in a creative way. I'm sure you've worked with people where they get to that place where, oh, this is something that is giving me more than I could have thought was possible. Can you tell us some stories about some of those? Either people you've worked with or people you know in this that work in this way, that live in this way.
Yeah. I have a current client of mine and she's an entrepreneur. She also takes care of her family, right? She's the one of the people in her family that takes care of the family as well.
Mm.
And so she has a lot on her plate, as most of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And what she and I have realized in working together is that her brain has the tendency to naturally go to making things as complicated as they possibly can. And if we
Okay,
were in
I've
a
done
group
that.
setting,
That's
right?
been
I
me.
know, right? And if we were in a group setting, I'd say, raise your hand if that's you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that it's a lot of people. A lot of people, it's like, well, if I want to be successful, I have to do all A through Z. Just doing A and B is not going to be enough. And we
Mm-hmm.
believe that. And one of the
Yes.
reasons we believe that is because our brain is trained to remember negative experiences far greater than it is trained to remember positive experiences.
Mm.
So one of the ways that we use silence together is we'll go in and we will go into breath with eyes closed together.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I ask is, what is the simplest option available?
Mm.
What is the simplest option available? Because so much, for so many people, we make it so complicated that we can't even get our foot in the door, let alone walk through the door and actually do the thing. So
Mm-hmm.
what is the simplest option available? And this morning we were talking and, they were talking about hosting their own event and having it in person and arranging childcare so people can attend and all of these things. And then we went into breath and I was like, what's the simplest option available? And they were like, actually, one of my colleagues already has a Thursday Zoom event that they host every week. And I can just invite people to that. I don't have to host my own event. It doesn't have to be in person. We don't have to worry about childcare because people can do it on Zoom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel
And
my whole
it,
body relax as you even share that.
right? And it just allows for it to feel possible, allows for it to feel possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. How does the brain, you just mentioned the brain again, and with your background in neuroscience, how does the brain relate to silence?
The brain really heals in silence. It
Mm.
really heals in silence. It really allows there to be a reduction in stress. When we have too much stimulus, especially from the outside, it can actually trigger our amygdala, which is our fear center of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're listening to things and engaging in things all the time that stimulate that fear signal, we can have those fear chemicals going through our brain all the time, which can really drastically change the way that we think about things. When we are in silence or in a place of meditation, because even if we're not choosing to meditate, so to speak, when we're in that silent place, we're still meditating. That's
Yeah,
basically
it
what
doesn't
we're
matter what
doing.
we call it, right?
Yeah. We have, a release of dopamine, we have a release of serotonin, we have our those chemicals that get released that reduce stress.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a trickle down effect. So the more that our brain is in a calm place, the more likely it is that our body and the cells in our body are going to be in a calm place too.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And then when that happens, when the calmness or the peace is able to take hold, my experience is that's where new possibilities start to come in. That we can't get what I speak about as inner guidance when we're stressed, when our bodies are tight. It just it can't happen. It can't come in. There's no space.
Absolutely. And and a lot of the functions that we use in daily life or in business or in work become improved. So our ability to learn improves. Our ability to learn from challenges, which is resiliency, improves. Our ability to make clear-minded decisions improves. Our ability to process negative stimuli and respond in a mindful way improves.
Yeah. That's the thought occurs to me is, why wouldn't, knowing all of that, why would you continue to fill up your external environment with chatter, whether that's chatter of TV, of the radio, of a podcast, whatever it might be. I mean, you build a great case for the importance of developing a relationship with silence.
And I have an answer to that, but I have to give a warning that most people are not going to like it.
Okay, okay.
So I think that unfortunately we have decided, and when I say we've decided, it was probably a subconscious choice. We didn't actively decide, but we have decided to believe that external stimulus equals work completed.
Wait. Okay, explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So if we are listening to podcasts, flipping through our social media, if we are listening to audiobooks and all of those things, we feel accomplished by it. We feel like we have accomplished something. We feel a sense of that we're doing something. And unfortunately, we live in a society where doing stuff and accomplishing things and doing work is a measure of success for a lot of people. And the truth is that for the most part, that external stimulus is not really accomplishing much.
So
it's not accomplishing much unless it's educational.
Well, okay, but what about the people that, because I have a good friend who says I need to have sort of mindless TV on in the background while I'm working. I need to, should it, I'm not going to be looking at the TV, but I need to have that on, something that I don't have to follow the story all the time, and so it can't be too gripping of a tale, while I'm doing all the work on my computer that I need to do.
Yeah,
What do you think
I
about
hear that a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
hear that a lot, especially from entrepreneurs, that it helps them. Or even TV on when they sleep, it helps them sleep deeper. I hear all
Wow.
of this kinds of stuff all the time. And then I invite them to gradually work towards working up to be able to work in silence for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they are astounded by the amount that they can accomplish when they've worked up to it compared to when they had external stimuli going on.
Interesting. So what's going on there?
Well, as you can imagine, our brain doesn't actually multitask. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that argue with me on this
Yeah,
point, but
it's
our brain doesn't,
right.
unfortunately.
We now know
It
that.
just, yeah, it just rapidly moves through things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I said, okay, Laurie, I want you to go to the gym, and all I want you to do is walk on the treadmill at 3-point speed for a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the next day I said, now what I want you to do is I want you to walk on the treadmill while at 3-point speed for a half an hour. And I want you to do arm curls. And I want you to flap the other arm like it's a jumping jack. And I want you to try to take a drink of water from a straw every 30 seconds. Okay. Which one are you going to feel more exhausted after?
Very clearly, the second.
Right. And that's kind of what we're doing to our brain when we have external stimuli going on and we're trying to focus on something, because our brain is still switching to that on occasion to know that it's there. Because our brain is always aware of our environment to the best of its ability.
Yeah, it has to keep us safe, right?
Yeah.
Why? It's a puzzle to me because that's not how I operate. I mean, the need for the background noise. why do people, why have people started with that, or feel like it's a good thing, it's a helpful thing?
Because it's normal to them.
Huh.
Because it's normal to them, because we normalize it at some point along our lives. And at some point, it felt like a tool. And it was a really great tool at that time, and it served its purpose.
Hmm.
It may still be a tool that's serving its purpose. There are just other tools out there. So a good example is, I teach at the university, and a number of my students say that they listen to music while they're studying.
Hmm.
Well, a lot of people listen to music in their dorm room while they're studying because their dorm mate is being noisy,
Right. So
right? And they're
it
trying to
muffles
drown
that.
out that other noise
Hmm.
to have it be something that is not impeding their ability to study. So
Hmm.
maybe they start it that way, and then they just take it forward in their life
Ah.
afterward.
Okay, so it might be actually a usable or useful thing in certain situations, like the dorm room.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So anything else that you can help point people towards to building their capacity for silence, their capacity and their I was going to say enjoyment, but their appreciation for silence.
Yeah. I would say start really small and set a timer. So one and maybe use something that guides you into silence. So there's a website called fragrantheart.com
Mm.
that has free guided meditations on it that guide people into silence. There are lots of apps out there. You could also just use the timer app on your phone and say, I'm going to sit down in silence for the next 30 seconds. Start with 30 seconds.
Mm.
Start with whatever feels good to you to start with. Don't push yourself. Don't judge yourself if
Mhm.
you need to start small. And and then see if you can grow it over time and see what happens. Just see what happens within your body and with your mind when you're able to practice that silence on occasion.
What should they be looking for?
A sense of feeling calmer, a sense of feeling as though things are more doable. So less feelings of overwhelm.
Hmm.
When challenging things happen, feeling like it's possible to move through them instead of feeling like wanting to give up.
Hmm. Hmm. And that's that resilience you spoke of earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And they might be surprised by all sorts of things. And sometimes they might, I know people sometimes have the experience of, well, I just had all these busy, busy thoughts.
Yeah,
But that's a starting place.
absolutely. It's gaining self-awareness, and self-awareness is one of the pillars of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And research has shown that for every point that we increase in emotional intelligence, which of course we can increase throughout our entire life,
Hmm.
we actually bring in or make about $1,400 more revenue from either our paycheck or our business. So if the
Goodness.
science behind things, which I really love, or the emotional aspect are not things that you connect with, but
Hmm.
money is, silence is a really good thing to increase your money flow.
Wow. Silence is a really good thing to increase your money flow. That is wonderful. I love it. I love it. That's a great note, I think, to close on. Arliss, how can people find out more about you and the work you're doing?
Thank you for that question. My website is solutions.com. That's SOULLUTIONS.com. And my email is arliss@solutions.com. And you're welcome to see new upcoming events that I have going on my website and to reach out anytime. I love to connect with people, and I also love to connect people to people that can really support them. So if I'm not the right fit to give support, I'm happy to connect them on to people in my network.
Mm. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's wonderful and it's generous. I appreciate that. Thank you, Arliss Dudley-Cash, for sharing your wisdom and for sharing your story your story speaks so much about what's possible, and I celebrate that.
Thank you. Thank you for today, and thank you for what you do, shining your light out into the world.
Thank you. And I want to thank our audience too for being with us here today at Wisdom Talk Radio. Remember, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube, so you get to see us live there, or see us live there on video as well. And if you want more about your own connection with your inner guidance system, with Source, go take the Quantum Connection quiz today. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.